Great, and we're live. So welcome everybody to this remote interview. My name is Lisette, and I'm interviewing people and companies doing great things remotely. And today on the line from my home country, the Netherlands, I have Yann Toutant. And Yann, you are the CEO of Ikana Netherlands and also the president of the French Chamber of Commerce here in the Netherlands. So I want to dive into your experience in terms of what Ikana does and some of your experience with different cultures. But let's start with the first question. What does your virtual office look like? What do you need to get your work done?
Well, first of all, hello. Thank you for welcoming me on your podcast. My office is very simple. I just need a computer, a laptop with a good Wi-Fi connection, and that's it. I could even put it down to an iPhone or a smartphone. That would be enough. But I must admit that I'm still in need of a computer with a keyboard and a hard disk.
The keyboard makes it handy.
Yeah, definitely. And also the size of the screen. But basically, that's all I need. I need a good computer and a Wi-Fi connection, and I'm working. And of course, work is not always behind a computer. There's also some networking work to be done, talking to customers, partners. It's not always behind the screen. If I look at the time that I spend working in my position behind the screen, it's about, I would say, 4 to 5 hours a day. And the rest of the time, it's more interacting with people.
Okay.
That's about it. That's work for me.
And do you work from one particular place, or is it a variety of places?
I like to be triggered by different locations. I like to work from different spaces, and that's also what I advise to a lot of people, and starting with the employees of the company. I believe in the fact that you can be triggered by changing working environment as much as possible. I have for that a principle which I call the remote work ladder. 4 steps to go remote. For the people which are not remote today, for corporate organizations that are looking for solution for remote work. First of all, is to be remote in your own office. So make sure that the office space you offer to your employees is fully flexible, and that will make that people already are flexible in the office, meaning that every day people have to sit to another desk, and they don't have a fixed position. Managers have no fixed office, so everybody at the same level, and that will make that the people are starting to be used to change seat, to change neighbors. That's one. And second, they will be used to be fully digitized when it comes to their work. You can't be changing a place every day if you still have to carry your paper with you.
Yeah.
So that's the first step, to be able then to be remote outside of the office. And I already always advise to make baby steps. And the first baby step is to work from partners and suppliers and customers. You have a meeting at a customer at 11 to 12, and you have a productivity afternoon in front of you. Just stay there and ask this customer to host you for the afternoon.
Great relationship building.
Of course. Plus the inspiration of the DNA of this company that you're going to be joining for half a day. The step 2, the step number 3 is to work from co-working spaces. So I love to work from, if I don't have to come to the office or to a customer, I never stay home. I just move to a co-working space close to my home, and there are plenty. And I work from there, which is very inspiring, because a co-working space has they all have the wish to differentiate from each other by creating communities and organizing events and making you feel part of a community. So you join a work-related community that is not your company. Yeah. And you get a lot of insights. And the last of the 4 steps that I advise is to take long weekends or extend your holidays and work from your destination. So instead of flying on a Friday afternoon for a weekend and flying back on a Sunday evening and being in the crowd and a very expensive flights, just fly on a Thursday afternoon and come back on Monday evening. You pay half of the price, and Friday and Monday you just do remote work from where you are.
And explore a little bit about, you can take extra walks on those days, or
for example,
swims, or yeah.
And on Monday morning, when you will wake up, if you're on the seaside, for example, you will have a swim in the sea before starting your work, which you would not do if you live in a city, or unless you have a city on the seaside. But this is a way to take distance also. And every people I discuss this matter with, they all agree that when you work remote, when you work on the sideline of your business, you have more distance and you think different and you act different and your productivity is higher. So this is also bringing a lot of value to your business, which people would think, wow, he's escaping. And in fact, no, you're even more in by having a distance.
With the help of an additional perspective, or a step away, or
Exactly.
Indeed. I would think going to the same place, even, I mean, I love working from home, but being in the same place every single day, I indeed notice that I start to think the same way. I've got the same patterns. So it's really important to get out and about. I'm really curious. So you say you never work from home. Why is that?
I believe home is not a place to work. And also one of the challenges I face to implement remote work is that management leaders have quite some restrictions or some, I would say, they are, they think that if people will work from home, they will not be working. They will be doing their laundry or
swimming in the sea.
Swimming in the sea. So if you directly associate remote work to home office, then it creates some tensions in the organization. So I prefer to say home is not a place to work because it's not a working environment. And I prefer to say that if you want to work home or close to your home, go to a co-working space instead of staying home.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So in your LinkedIn profile and some other things that I've read, it says that you're a strong believer in the location independent movement that focuses on impressions versus possessions, and this offers new opportunities to corporations. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, I am convinced that the whole economy is going to a usage-based economy. So we're going to use things instead of owning things. We're going to enjoy things instead of having to manage things. And I'm thinking about, of course, what is obvious for all of us, Netflix, Spotify. Those are examples where, if you think about Netflix, before Netflix, you had to go to the store to rent a DVD. And then, of course, the DVD you want is never there available. So you take another one and you're back home with your DVD, and then you have to put it in a player, and maybe the remote control batteries are dead. So you have to change the batteries. And before you start watching a movie, 1 hour later, you have got a lot of frustrations. Netflix, you just use any device anywhere and you start and it works. So it's about the usage. You could even buy some DVDs at the time and you would pile them up below your TV and you would only look at them once. So the whole economy is going this way in a service model. And this is something I believe that is very interesting when it comes to remote work and location independent, because you can have a life that is not related to a place only if you are only using the devices that are on the services that are available without owning them. So basically, I'm talking about Airbnb, for example. I'm talking about SwapFits in Holland, where you can rent a bike and not buy a bike anymore. So all those services allow you to focus on the experience instead of the ownership of the solution or the device or the service that will provide you the experience. You just focus on the experience without having the burden to organize the experience. That's what I summarize by impressions versus possessions. I like to spend money in impressions, in experiences, and not in possessions. Because if I possess, I need to maintain, insure, being even forced to use it. If I use when I need, and that's it. So that's an example of that is, for example, I live in a very tiny apartment and I have no coffee machine, for example.
How is that possible? Wow.
If I want a coffee, well, first of all, it reduces my coffee consumption. And if I want a coffee, I need to walk downstairs to the bar downstairs. And then I will be in another atmosphere. I will meet people and I will have impressions, experiences.
Wow. That's extreme. It sounds extreme.
That's extreme. Yeah.
My coffee is very important to me. I would be based on this use-based economy, this service model. This actually ties really nicely into the company
Yes.
that you have, Ikana. And actually, when I started learning about it, I thought, I've got to talk to you more. I've got to have you on this podcast because this is a really interesting system that I think sounds like the future. I mean, it makes sense to me. So let's explain, what does Ikana do?
Yeah. With Econocom, we bring into the business world what we are used to have as individuals. So I gave the example of Netflix, Spotify. We use it as individuals. But when it comes to organizations still have to buy, maintain, service their equipment. And some specific equipments are already in this model of as a service that we call. I'm thinking about the copy machines to make the copies.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking about the coffee machines to make the coffee. I'm thinking about the cars. Most of the cars are in a service model. But there's still a lot of devices in organizations that are not in those models. And organizations are still buying the equipment, maintaining the equipment, and so on and so on. What we offer at Econocom is to create solutions for our customers to bring them on a silver plate the usage of a technology and not the ownership. I will give a concrete example. One of the customers that we have are schools, the primary schools. And primary schools struggle to go to e-learning. Why? Because the schools have to buy a software, they have to buy tablets, and they have to service those tablets. And it's not the core business of a school to manage a fleet of tablets. What we have created for the schools is a solution that is bringing on a silver plate a complete e-learning environment that includes the software, the tablet, the maintenance, the insurance, the Wi-Fi, the digital boards in the classroom, and all that for €8 per kid per month.
Wow.
And this is
an
example
less than
of
Netflix.
That's less than Netflix. So you can choose e-learning on Netflix. It's cheaper to go to e-learning. Now, this example I like to give because this is making very concrete what we do is to take the different components of a project and to integrate them in a solution and to offer the solution in a price per month. So then the user can focus on the usage and only the usage. And if he has a problem,
can focus on teaching, not on, oh my gosh, how do I get this iPad working?
Exactly.
So would this then also, so a lot of times when I go into companies to give workshops, a lot of people say our hands are tied on the tools that we're allowed to use because at our company, everybody has to use Microsoft Teams and X video platform. So in this case, this would solve a problem like that, where you could say, actually, if your company wanted to be more flexible, where some teams were using this conferencing tool and some other teams wanted to use Microsoft Teams, that you guys could then provide sort of that flexibility for people to branch out. So the whole company doesn't have to use exactly the same tool, because that's really an old-fashioned idea, seems to me. I mean, it seems efficient in a lot of ways that everybody's using the same things, but different teams have different needs.
Yeah. Of course, what we like to offer in this case is to have some standards. So not going into every direction, because the management of a fleet of technology. We have customers who have 700 meeting rooms, for example. If you have to manage 700
Wow.
meeting rooms, you have to have some standard, some standardization. But you can have four, for example, and not only one. You can have four standardization, and then according to the need you have as user, you can choose the one that fits you the best that specific day. What we offer in this case is to be complete independent from the technology. So we can make this solution with any technology. We don't mind, in fact.
So some people want to use Zoom, some people want to use Teams, some people want to use, it doesn't matter to you guys, you're just setting up the infrastructure.
Yes, correct.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Really brilliant. So what's the worst conference room setups you've seen? You must have seen some terrible ones.
Well, I must say that I've seen only a few good ones.
Really?
I've seen only, yeah. This is really the video. It's the video conferencing systems. Everybody says that when you need to do video conferencing, you enter into the room, you don't know how it works, you find a new remote control you've never seen before, there is a cable that is unplugged, you need to call the help desk, you have two guys coming and they're like, they also don't know, but they do their best. And 15 minutes later, you start to have someone on your screen. That's so common, so common.
Why is that? Because this is the primary means that people are communicating with each other amongst their companies, right? Multinational companies struggle. I hear it too. Totally not surprised. I'm sure everybody listening to this podcast is like, yep, that's my company. But so why are we making more of an effort to improve this system? I don't know if you know the answer, but
yeah. Well, I have a start of an answer. It has been, for long, it has been managed by facility management in the organization. So this portfolio belongs to facility managers. And facility managers, most of the time, will have an approach, a management, room by room, due to the budget allocations that are also being given. What happens today is that those systems are connected to the IP technology of the company because they have to be online. So they are creating a breach of security in the backbone of the company. So this portfolio is going now to IT directors because they become part of the IT infrastructure. And IT directors are used to have 1, 2, or 3 standards for their equipment. And suddenly they face 60 different rooms with 60 different suppliers. And so the management of it is very complex. And there we step in to help them to turn this in a fleet management and to help them to manage their meeting rooms as a fleet. Yeah. As a fleet, meaning that you have 3 different type of rooms and you have one player that does all the service of these rooms, and you again pay a monthly price for it. And against this monthly price, you're fully serviced.
And you can change it anytime, right? There's no, like, you don't have to use it. Yeah, which seems like, given that new technologies come out every day, you wouldn't want to be stuck in a 10-year contract.
No,
on something, given
of course not.
Yeah, I get emails for new tools every single day. So the market is really developing fast in this area.
Yeah. And then this is the link with remote work we discussed before, because the office space is becoming a place to collaborate. So people come to the office only if they need to collaborate. But if they have to work on their own, they don't come to the office. So if you are able to provide great collaborative features in your office, then you also promote remote work while keeping contact with your employees, because they will come to enjoy the collaboration features that you provide that they will never find elsewhere.
Right, because you've got the infrastructure in place. They can't get at a co-working space, of course, or at home.
Not.
Got some crazy setup.
Yeah.
Right. So then it changes then from the office space being just a place where people come in to do work to a place where actually, if people only come in when they need to collaborate, and then they've got all the infrastructure that they need in order to do it. So
exactly.
So that means, though, then a lot of downsizing of offices, I'm assuming, since not everybody has to be there all the time.
Well, here I have 6 for 10, so I have 6 seats for 10 people, and it's no problem. I would not talk about downsizing, because those collaborative environments, if they are well installed, well prepared, they take quite some space also. I'm talking about immersive collaboration room. So rooms with big screens where the sound is being integrated, and you really can share your creativity and the files you're working on and the ideas you have with the other people involved. And it requires quite some space and some technology. So,
right. And also people learning how to use the technology and how to interact with these kind of new,
yes, correct.
this new infrastructure.
Yeah.
So I'm curious. So given that that people in your company, they're allowed to work from anywhere, how do you guys stay aligned? How does everybody know what each other are doing, and then you're all focused on the same goal? Do you have some sort of a team agreement in place for how you would behave, like some core rules that everybody has to follow? How do you guys stay aligned?
Yeah. Well, first of all, we have a very strong mission statement that make it clear for everybody that what you're doing today, what is what you're doing today contributing to the mission statement of the company. That is very important. What are you doing now? Is this contributing to the mission statement? If not, well. The second thing that is important, if I'm doing someone else's job, who's doing my job? So am I doing precisely what nobody else can do in the organization? If not, then we have a problem also. Means that people are not at the right place. So those are questions that I'm asking the people to think about very often. Am I contributing to the purpose? And am I in line with my work job description, meaning that I'm doing something that nobody else can do? And then it creates already a self-sufficient platform for people to be able to know if they are acting in the right direction. And of course, we have job descriptions, which are very much focused on the output. So what do I need to produce? What is the outcome of my work? And this output has to be achieved how they want. So I'm not asking people to do a certain number of hours or to be here or whatsoever. No, they have to do the output, no matter how they have to organize themselves to reach this output.
Okay. So you're saying, hey, here's the goal. How you get there, I don't care how you get there, as long as it's, of course, within the values of the company and legal and all that. I don't care how you get there, but when you get there, we'll discuss how it went.
And your contribution to this goal is in your job description, in the output of your job description.
Okay. And are there core hours that everybody has to work, or is it?
Depends on the jobs, of course. We have jobs that are customer facing related. So, of course, you have to be available for your customers. But for the one who don't have to, or some jobs are customer facing related, but not always facing customer. So then you can decide to work when you want for those people.
So it really is just results based. It's not, you don't really care if it's done before 5 p.m., and if results based also means making your customers happy. So
exactly,
it just makes sense to be there when your customers need you.
Okay.
And you may have answered this with your climbing the remote working ladder answer with your 4 steps to go remote. I really, really like that. But it says also in your profile that you want corporates. You're in a mission to get corporates remote ready.
Yeah.
And is this what you meant with your climbing the ladder, or so that they are able to work?
This is a tool. This is an easy way to understand the steps to be remote ready. If we take a bit of a distance to this principle, the future of work is remote. I'm convinced of that. The future of work is remote. We are used to 2 things I like to mention. The first thing is when you are looking for talents and you look at them within a 1 hour commuting time of your office. So you take your office and you draw 1 hour commuting time, which is roughly what you will ask to the people, maximum 2 hours. And if they say, I live 2 hours, you say, maybe I will take someone else. So basically, you look at your talents in a circle that is 1 hour distance from your office. Just take a map of the world and draw this circle.
Yeah. You'd need a really big map to be able to draw to draw any sort of circle. Yeah.
So you're fishing in a pond that is so small compared to what the world has to offer for talents. How can you reduce this? Why? Because you want to see the people every day at the office. What's the connection? So I believe that we are used to bring people to work together at the same place since the Industrial Revolution, where before the Industrial Revolution, the people that were producing shoes, for example, were doing from A to Z the shoes. They were doing on their own. And then the Industrial Revolution has sliced the work, different steps. So you need to be people next to each other to do one step after each other. So you need to bring everyone to one place at a certain time in the day and during a certain amount of hours. And of course, the Industrial Revolution has developed to some offices, some services, and we moved to a service economy. But still, we ask the people to come to the office and to work next to each other, where this idea of tasks that are being sliced from one to another are not existing anymore, especially with the technologies we have today. So I believe that we still have this legacy of the Industrial Revolution, where we asked people to come to a place to deliver their work. We still have this legacy into the office environment, which is nonsense.
Yeah, it starts to make less and less sense over time, it seems. But then I'm really biased over it. However, I do feel like there are some people that are still not. They can't do that. They don't have the discipline, or they get really lonely and they don't know how to get their own social needs met. You know, there are people that are unable to do this.
Of course.
Seems like there's probably enough offices for them.
Yeah, and you know what no, but you can have a full distributed workforce with anyone anyone out of an office and no office, or you can have a full integrated workforce with everyone at the office every day, and you can have hybrid models where you can have an office. That's my case. There is an office here. We have an office where we can come as much as we want, but it's not an obligation. The office is part of the places where you can work. Is one of them.
Right. Just a central hub that has been, that has been designated as here. Yeah. Just like a co-working space would be.
Exactly. It's one of the places, one of the co-working space. And if you really are in need of meeting people and meeting colleagues, well, you can come every day. No worries.
So in your also in your profile, it says that you are passionate about bridging cultural gaps, and
Yes.
you're French, as everyone can hear on the podcast, and living in the
Really?
Netherlands. French accent is the best, right? The Dutch accent just doesn't compete. But it says you've also lived in Belgium, or have worked in Belgium and in Spain and in the Nordics, and you're the president of the French Chamber of Commerce here in Holland. What can you say about, this is a very broad question, so I'll leave it into whatever direction we want to take this, but what can you say about working with different cultures? What are some of the things that people need to pay attention to?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I used to introduce myself as a European from France.
Love it.
And I believe we should all think like this. I believe that, especially in Europe, we are very much focusing on the country where we live, where in fact the distances are so short that you can change country in 1 hour. And I invite everyone to think that he's a European from one country where he was born and raised. Having said that, I really like to observe the cultural differences because they bring you a lot of lessons on the things that you do because it's part of your culture. So the things that you do without even thinking you are doing them. And I like to address those things because in some cultures there are very interesting habits that are good to grab and to integrate for yourself. I'm taking the example of the Dutch culture. When a meeting starts, People are on time. People are really on time. And when the meeting starts at 2 o'clock, it starts at 2 o'clock. And if some people are missing, the meeting starts. And when you start the meeting at 2 o'clock, if there are some slides and some documents, they are already engaged on the screen. And you have received an agenda, and you have received the goals of the meeting, and you have an end date for this meeting, and the hour at which this meeting ends. I'm coming from France, it's a completely different story. And I like to integrate this habit of the Dutch people in my routine because I get more productivity.
Yeah.
That's an example. And it's interesting to see a meeting between French and Dutch people, where if it's in France, the Dutch people will be already sitting in a meeting room, waiting for the meeting to start at 2 o'clock. And the owner of the meeting will arrive at 2:05. And you will be like, oh, they're already sitting here. What's happening? He's not used to that. And it creates pressure. It creates tension because people don't understand each other. We are on time. The meeting didn't start. What's happening? And the French guy, he says, well, I am, whoop, the wrong maneuver on my phone. I will
Oops, now you're on mute. There we go.
What's happening here? I'm sorry.
No worries. Technical difficulties. It's all part of the experience.
Technical
there
difficulties. Yes, here we are again.
We can edit it out of the podcast version.
So those cultural differences are very interesting to observe, and it's good to pick from any culture what is interesting in this culture, and that's what I love and makes me richer, is to be on the sideline of a culture and look at the plus and the minus of each culture and integrate them in my daily life, and also help people to understand those differences.
Yeah, because they can make a big difference. I can imagine even just with the meeting time starting, you've got the Dutch people who are frustrated and the French people who have no idea why they're frustrated, or maybe some idea, but less. And it's a small thing, but it can build up over time. And especially if you have remote colleagues, then people tend not to necessarily talk about it straight up, and it just comes out in weird ways.
Yeah,
it seems like there's all kinds of little things like that must come up in working with cultures where we really need to just stop, take a minute, and observe, and know what or just know that there are lots of things that we don't know about working with another culture. Yeah, we don't know what we don't know in this situation.
We don't know what we don't know, exactly.
Yeah, it can be really tricky. I thought coming from the United States that living in the Netherlands, how different could it possibly be? It's Western Europe, it's the United States, it's it's got to be the same. And I found the opposite to be true. There are a lot of very small and significant differences in the culture that I quickly learned about.
Definitely, I agree.
Oh, we're totally running out of time. But what I would like to, man, we've already gone over. Darn, I always try to keep it shorter, but if you're saying good things, I can't stop.
Thank you.
One thing, I have two last questions. And one is, if you have advice for people who are just starting out, maybe CEOs of other companies who are just starting out and thinking about letting their workforce go remote, what advice would you give them?
Have your management go remote first.
Ooh.
Because the biggest resistance will be there.
Where
management
does that resistance come from?
Well, it's some of the leadership signs that will disappear. If you are a manager and you made it to a manager position, for a lot of people, it means that they have to broadcast their manager position as it has always been done, by having a nice office or even a corner office, and by having a team working in front of them and seeing these people working, organizing meetings with all those people in the room, preparing some slides extra. So broadcasting your leadership in a way by being very present, physically present, together with your team. And working remote has to bring completely different leadership behaviors.
Takes a hit on the ego.
Yeah, of course the ego is being touched, of course.
Yeah.
I have, for example, here I have turned all the offices of the managers into meeting rooms. So nobody has an office here anymore. And of course, this was hard to swallow for some of the managers because they had hundreds of excuses why they should have an office. I work myself in the middle of the open space when I'm here, and I love it because I get the conversations of the company. I understand a lot about the organization, which I was not understanding before when I was locked in my office.
Right. It is nice to have your own office, that's for sure. It's quiet, it's productive, you can close the door, get work done. But yeah.
Please do it. I mean, I still have a lot of, in one of those offices now, which you can book if you have a need of focus or like what we're doing now. But those managers, I was one of them, you are used to get in this office at 8 o'clock in the morning and leave at 8 o'clock in the evening, no matter what you do. Now I go in this office for this call, but after I'll be back to the open space.
Yeah. The use space. So your advice then is managers go remote first.
Yes. Yeah.
Experience it so that you know what to expect, and you know what your employees then are also going to encounter when they go remote.
Exactly.
Okay. And then last question is, if people want to learn more about you and Ikana, what are the best places to go online? Obviously the website, which I will link to in the show notes.
Yes, the website and my LinkedIn profile. LinkedIn is really an easy. That's my favorite access to my favorite way to connect with people. So please engage the conversation on LinkedIn. On my LinkedIn profile, my name is Yann, Yann Toutant, Toutant, and on LinkedIn I'm easy to find.
Great, and I will definitely link that in the show notes as well. I love LinkedIn. I've met more people on LinkedIn than I've met in person. It's kind of amazing.
Yeah, the same.
Well, Yann, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. I took copious notes, so I really appreciate all the tips that you had to give, and I hope the audience appreciates it too. Thank you.
Thank you too. Thank you. Have a good day for what remains.
Thank you. And until next time, everybody, be powerful.